Hey guys, I'm Corey.
And I'm Kyra.
And welcome to
Above the Bar.
So we talked about this year being an exciting year, 2021.
Yes.
You gotta have a switch up, and we are in some exciting restaurants. Kyra, tell me about our restaurant today.
So this is one of our favorites here in Houston, and it is called Lucille's. And an exciting twist to our visit today at Lucille's is that we have the amazing bartender Bevan. And like literally this bar has great cocktails, great food, but today the cocktail that we're highlighting is made from highway vodka. And the reason why this vodka is very special is because it is owned by Black owners, the owners of Lucille's, Chris and Ben, and it's also a hemp-based vodka. Like, can't go wrong. Cannot get, there's no extra added buzz, but there are many great incentives to hemp. And so having it added to a vodka is just, I think, a great combination. So I'm excited to see what our cocktails taste like today. I'm looking forward to it.
I know, and we have some selection today. You guys are getting upgraded. It's not just what me and Kyra think of as we walk through specs. We have a professional today who's gonna bring some delicious twists to our normal conversations and libations. And if you know anything about Lucille's, you know Chris is an amazing chef. We have an amazing cocktail artiste. So today is something you cannot miss. Tell us more. What are we drinking today?
Okay, so for today we're going to do a strawberry lemonade sangria, and then also instead of using rum, we're going to use the highway vodka for the pineapple mai tai.
Love a strawberry. All of this sounds like delicious summertime cocktails, fun to me. But I forgot to ask, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at obevan, because I'm always in trouble. Just OHBEVIN.
And you guys will also be able to find her more often on Above the Bar. Yes, we are expanding. We are bringing you guys better conversations, even better cocktails and libations now that we have her joining us. So I'm so excited. And trust me, I am going to need a refreshing and strong cocktail for the conversation that we're having today. So
deep dive conversation. So take us deep into this highway.
outside in their lovely backspace to just get some fresh air. I might need it during this conversation, but we just kind of transition to them.
And I know I never see outside, so a conversation like this, we need to be outside so I can yell and scream and cuss and be at home and free to do so. So let us say now, as attorneys, our thoughts are the things that we voice are not a representation of Lucille's, nor of this delicious highway vodka brand. And I'm only saying that to give myself a disclaimer because I might say whatever I want to today. We have some important topics, but we might as well dive right into a very important topic. And we brought our special guest here because she took advantage of some of the activities over the weekend. If you did not know, there was a celebration over the weekend celebrating the memorial of, or not a celebration, I guess they made it a celebration. In honoring the massacre that we know as Black Wall Street. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you experienced?
Let's definitely highlight the shirt.
So I was born in Tulsa. My mom was born in Tulsa, so it was a little sentimental for me to go back and visit Tulsa and see how things are now. But I went to the opening. I didn't go to any of the events over the weekend. I went to a lot of the installations, part of the Greenwood Art Project. Really beautiful. Got to meet Miss Fletcher, one of the Centennials for the race riot. So she was 7 years old when it happened. And her brother is now 100 years old, so he was born, way later. But it was dope. A lot of artists, a lot of beautiful documentaries. From my perspective, a lot of what Tulsa looked like when I was younger is a little different. I think it could be better. But I think that there's a good focus on trying to reconstruct what was destroyed 100 years ago, because it's taking forever to reconstruct the Black portion of Tulsa.
So tell me this, coming from Tulsa, what was the sentiment growing up there? Like, what did you learn about that day?
So I wasn't raised there. So basically my mom was raised there. I was born there. My mom got me out of Tulsa when I was a baby because there was a big crack epidemic from the 80s to the 90s. And there's a lot of people selling drugs in Tulsa. So that Black Wall Street that was vibrant, drug dealers, it was a mess. So my mom got me out of there. When I moved to Houston, nobody knew about Black Wall Street. So everybody just looked at me like I was a crazy person my whole life. Yeah. So now I'm 28 and I'm just seeing all this uproar and people talking about it, and just like my whole life I was just looked at as a crazy person because only the Black people knew, or only the Black people talked about it. Well, some refused to talk about it.
And I would say, you think about, you go to other places, like Juneteenth was a very Texas thing, and now it's becoming more like a national movement. So sometimes people really don't know. I know when I was a kid, there's a lot of ridicule about Juneteenth. Like, these stupid people didn't know for years that they were free, right? And now we can see more insight into the struggle and what really happened. So I love that stories like The Watchmen are bringing these stories to light, so people can become informed, because that's an important part of it.
When I saw Watchmen, I went crazy. I was like, what? People kept saying, watch it, watch it, watch it. They're talking about that thing you keep talking about. I'm like, that thing? You mean a massacre? Yeah. So when I watched it, I was just like, wow, I'm seeing this on TV now.
It's such a broad spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, I knew about other massacres because it wasn't just Tulsa. I mean, I know about Rosewood. Rosewood was one of the massacres that really traumatized me as a kid.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of massacres that happened to us over,
And I think it's important to call it a massacre, right? Because it used to be called the Tulsa Race Riots. And if you even look, and that's why self-information is so important, because if you go look at the news articles about it, it was saying race riots and old white people dead in the Tulsa race riots, as opposed to the true massacre that it was. Important distinction that we really name it and claim it. It was a massacre. It was a massacre of people who were in their homes, women, children, adults, elderly, of all types of people. So when we call it a riot, it makes it sound like there was an uprising and people were being torn down, not rising up.
For sure. And the thing, I just want to touch back on people not talking about it. I have to be honest, I did not know about the Black Wall Street Massacre until I was in college and took an elective in African American history. And so I think it just goes to speak to the conspiracy of silence that they say around this horrific event, and how it has always been there, and I feel like it's even trying to still be perpetuated today, despite efforts such as the Greenway Project to bring light to it and show how it was before, the damage and destruction to it after, and then how the community has tried but still struggle to bring itself back to light. And then you have people who are in Congress who are representing its constituents and have the audacity to pass a bill that says that you have to kind of have these restrictions around speaking about racially, not inciting, but racial events that happen in history. And primarily to protect the feelings of, let's be honest, of the people who did these acts, which are white. No offense, I'm just saying it is what it is.
Generationally,
Yes, not to say that it's not to say all whites are racist. That's not it. But the people who did these acts, it is a fact of who they were. So to then say, well, instead of bringing history to those who were still suffering and bring acknowledgement to them, as far as like there was even the lady who you're speaking of who went to Congress just in May asking for acknowledgement and justice still.
Justice
at 107 years old.
And she was sharp, and I think we talked about this last time, but some of the things she had to share was, not only did this change my life, change where I live, but this changed the scope of where I could go in my life.
Yes.
Because she shared that she was a maid for the rest of her life. She never went to school past 4th grade. So, you know, when you take away someone's wealth, in fact, I saw an article, a gentleman who was the grandson of the hotel owner at the time. This $120,000 hotel will be worth $10.5 million today. So when we talk about stealing generational wealth, and we've seen it throughout the country, to reimburse those people, let's not math and play around. There was a value that was stolen from people, and their heirs and ancestors, or even communities, should be reimbursed for what was stolen.
They said that at the time, the damage amounted to $1.5 million in real estate and $7,500,000 in personal property, equivalent to what today would be close to about $35 million.
Yes.
So to say that, I think the most that they've gotten was that they gave some scholarships to some of the descendants of people who, you know, were killed, murdered,
not enough,
displaced.
Not enough.
No.
If you go back to Tulsa, and if anybody knows Tulsa, like I know Tulsa, or even the Tulsa residents, you know there's not a lot there. There's not CVS's and Walgreens. There's not basic stuff in the heart of Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. If anybody knows the GAP band, it stands for the streets in Tulsa, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. There's nothing there. It's desolate, and I think that's an absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
For the neighborhood I was born in. And I didn't even have to be born there. It's a disgrace for Black people to get the crumbs when they built up this wealth and this beautiful town, just to be knocked down. And it's 100 years later, and it looks like shit.
And we're just now talking about it, and they're just now taking action. And we talked about that, the Asian rights hate bill, and I'm against hate in all forms.
Yes.
But why would it take 100 years for us to have the conversation? No action, no bills, no real legislation, and then things can happen so quickly. So I'm not trying to do a one-for-one comparison, but I hope it helps people understand these are systematic problems. So when we talk about racism, it's ingrained that people can't see it the same. You can understand Asian hate and get people moving on it, but trying to get legislation about repayment of things that we can prove that we own and you destroy is like, okay, we got to think about it.
There's proof that there were elected officials who were inciting people to, and protecting and encouraging, and were there too, bombing and throwing the bombs. That is first. It is not Pearl Harbor that was the first aerial attack on American soil. It was actually this massacre in our people on people, blacks on whites in America, Americans on Americans. It was us who had our first aerial attack. And so to say, and the reason why I brought that up is because where the planes came from was a hangar that was there and in place for African American uprising. So the hangar was there and placed strategically in the event that blacks had an uprising in that space. We didn't have an uprising and we're still attacked. Matter of fact, we were the ones being attacked and got attacked more. Yeah. And it is proven, there's facts behind it, but yet we still, now Republican Governor, what is his name? The Republican Governor Stitt, he is now saying that he doesn't even want the conversation around it. He says that from a government perspective, should taxpayers be required to pay the salaries of government employees to teach that whites are racist or inherently privileged? I think the answer should be no. Sorry, what? We're just trying to talk about the facts of the matter.
But we have to pay our tax-paying dollars to cops who kill us.
To hear what we pay our taxpayer dollars for a history narrative that is not true and reflective about who we are. And how people view us begins in what they learn in history. It continues in what they see in TV. A lot of people who have very strong opinions about Black people don't intimately know not a near one.
At all.
But they think that what they see on TV or what they have heard or what they read or the lack of what they read in historically surmises who we are as black people and who we could be if we were not suppressed.
And y'all want to know the audacity to me? This man was actually on the board for the Tulsa Race Massacre Commission. So he was on the board to educate people.
She said, Lord.
Yes. So after he made this statement and signed this bill, he was ousted because the commission said that they do not approve of that decision, and that completely contradicts their mission and what they're trying to do. So how are you going to pass this bill but at the same time be in opposition to the acknowledgement of the facts around it?
Because it's a trendy thing to do. It's cute.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I
trendy.
think being racist has become a lot cuter, but the truth is always going to be the truth. The same way we can't pretend anymore that Christopher Columbus discovered someone who was sitting there. You can't walk up to somebody sitting in their house and be like, look,
You know what? Actually,
I found this house.
I've been tasting this. Is my drink now.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's fine.
No, but what I'm saying is to your point. This is your drink, and I'm gonna
Look at
take
me.
it.
Right. Take it back.
I'm trying to prove her point and just saying that this is her drink. But if I just want to come and say, "Oh, it's mine," then
And there's nothing you can do about
there's
it.
nothing you can do about it. And you're like, "No, what you mean? I had it first." I'm like, "No, you didn't."
Because they
And you did it because I said
understand
And then,
the
oh, you don't have any
concept.
power? Here's all
Yeah.
my weapons. Do
Well,
something about
right
it.
here, they not understanding the concept of mind is a part of even I find as I'll be honest, I think black people are very generous, and we always trying
With
to
our
share, and we
labor.
always trying to care, and we always, a lot of times they were raising the children, they were caring for the homes in these scenarios, so they brought a lot of love to those scenarios and got no love in return.
Yeah.
All the mammies of the world, all the white people
Yeah.
who were fed our milk. We gave birth to our children, but all our milk was given to a white child instead of our own child. I don't think there's any focus on nannies either, the mammies, the wet nurses.
That's true.
And that's what they did, but they were the caregivers, they were the backbone of those societies too, and kind of beaten down to believe that what they had wasn't good enough. So if you don't know about the Tulsa Black Wall Street or about the massacre, I encourage you to become informed. Don't listen to them about
I
the
wanna
legislation.
say that actually I was educated in researching because I knew that it was an attack on wealth for the black community, but I did not know that it was an event where a black man, I think he may have been
In the
17,
elevator?
Yes.
walked into an elevator. The girl screamed, he ran away. The girl said that he just grabbed her arm, so they speculate maybe he tripped and tried to grab her arm to hold on to.
I have
but
tea on that.
She must
so,
know. She knows the real tea.
So the tea is, basically, if you listen to it from the other people's standpoint, aka white people's standpoint, they'll say that it was a love affair between two couples and he attacked her. That didn't happen. He worked in that building that he was in. He happened to be on the elevator. And I really, honestly, I don't believe her.
But so what I read was that she even said she didn't want to press charges. She said that it wasn't even any. She from what I read, she never claimed that he attacked her. It was someone who saw it or saw him running and then saw her a little disheveled and tried to make up the
they make
fake
the narrative.
news
Yeah,
that he
absolutely.
attacked her or he raped her or something like that. But she herself was like, no, I don't want to press charges. But then they went with whatever story they wanted to go to talk about media.
We have, just where even the
Don't have to
thought,
Isn't she
anything.
still alive?
Exactly.
Or did
No,
she
she
just,
died.
She just
She
died.
died.
Yeah, she
But
She lived a
even
full
the
life.
thought
That's so crazy.
that you
you
did
mean for
something
Emmett Till.
Emmett Till.
yes,
Yeah.
would get everyone not only like angry to kill him. I'm killing everybody. Y'all have to what? Learn your place, know your
Rosewood.
place, stay your place. You can't do that. You have to stay below us. And so it inspired what I would hope are normal people, because to go and just kill somebody, we certainly will talk about killings later. It's not just the everyday thing to see somebody dead. It takes a special kind of person to say, okay, I'm okay with seeing kids and women and elderly dead. So, that one thing inspired regular people to become killers is crazy.
But the
They
fact
weren't
that
regular,
you had
though.
that much
They
disdain
were
for the
sickos.
wealth of black people solely, but it's not infringing on you, but just to see a group of people doing so well that it takes a hairline fracture to incite you to turn them into refugees, to murder them, to kill them, to displace so many, and then not even want to talk about it and sweep it under the rug as if it never happened.
Because it didn't. Because then that would besmirch the idea of America, which is we're not racist. We're not, even though the historical facts prove different, which is why we can't talk about history.
To say that you don't want to have this curriculum because you don't want to perpetuate that a certain class of people, white people, are inherently privileged. The fact that you can say that is showing your inherent privilege. Like, what you okay? But
You're not allowed to know American history. Now let me teach you about Christopher Columbus.
Yeah. Oh, and
let me teach you about Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
Let me teach you about all these presidents and these pioneers.
But
it's crazy.
Violence, only begets more violence. And I'm hot because it's hot in Houston. I'm also hot because of our topic.
She should have got this drink. It's delicious. It's cool.
But violence has always been a part of American history.
Yeah.
But this past weekend, I don't know if it's COVID. This Memorial Day weekend, like there were shootings, an exorbitant amount of shootings all over. Like I know people have been cooped up, but we can't just fight no more. Like
we randomly met a gentleman who had a video of 2 people dying in his phone.
Hold on, before we get there, let's go through the list of all that happened this weekend.
No.
I don't even want to talk about all of it, but let's just hit on it.
Oh shit.
So let's start with, what was this? In Miami, there were 23 were shot. 2 were killed. That was just one shooting. That was the one outside of a banquet hall. They found over 100 shell casings at that scene. There were, the 3 shooters are still at large. There was another shooting in the Wynwood area of Miami. That was a drive-by. 1 was killed, 6 were injured. On Ocean Drive, which is very popular, very touristy, the baby and his crew, 2 of them have been arrested and charged with attempted murder because they were just shooting out on Ocean Drive and some people, I'm like, what's going on? Let's go to Philadelphia. You can't say it's the weather. Miami is beautiful, but Philly was rainy and a dreary day. 16 were shot between Friday and Monday, 4 were killed. New York, all 5 boroughs on Monday night had a shooting, including a 15-year-old that was killed. Chicago, I love my city. 3 were killed, 32 wounded. New Orleans, about a half a dozen, 3 dead, including a 12-year-old girl. Houston, which is before we get there, let's go to Houston.
So I know Houston to be a pretty safe city, but I had New Yorkers talking to me like, I'm not coming back here. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
It is not the Wild Wild West. Typically in Houston, people are pretty slow. I'm not saying we're pokey, but we're not
about that life.
Yeah, it's not too crazy.
It's not about that life, but I literally watched a video of someone shooting someone and then being murdered by the cops. Or I don't want to say murder, but he was shot down by the cops and he literally had a hole in his head. And this is a video in someone's phone. So when we talk about trauma or being desensitized to things like this, think about what it feels like to see somebody dead and then picking up and going about your day.
I'm gonna tell you this. Being from Chicago, reflect poorly on where I'm from, but y'all already know what Chicago energy is like. And I have seen someone lying there as their life was pouring out of them. And I was a child, and I still vividly remember what I was doing right beforehand, what I was doing during, after. I remember the smell. And sometimes if I randomly I don't know what the smell is, but I don't know if it's soap, I don't know what it is. But if I randomly somehow smell that, it is not a trigger like but it just takes me back to that place. It's very uncomfortable. So I cannot imagine being in a club that we've gone to before on several occasions and this all-out shooting and you see lifeless bodies on the floor.
Yeah.
And my question now the other shootings were more so outside, but the Clay shooting was inside of the club, and club owners have a responsibility to the people who come to that location.
A pat down.
Every time I've gone somewhere as of lately, I don't even have my purse checked. I don't care how small the purse is.
Yes,
they're like,
impossibly
I need
small.
to see inside your purse. So I am confused as to how these weapons got in, or did you allow them through a back access door, or whatever it was that you breached your protocol on, and these weapons got in. You are now liable for the death of these people. There were some that were injured that are on critical support right now, so hopefully they make it. And then I'm really trying to wonder, like, can you file a claim for like PTSD or emotional, distress?
Absolutely.
Because you negligently allowed this to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think negligence claims would certainly be on the rise from something like this. It is heartbreaking for so many people, but when we just talk about there's a lot of trauma in America that because it's unaddressed and untreated and undiagnosed, that people carry around with them. But certainly the trauma of death or the expectation that it's just something that happens. Like, yeah, just get over it. So the people I was talking to, I was like, one, there certainly was negligence, and if you are one of those people, I certainly would think inside at least that club you may have a claim. But what are the repercussions, and then how are we addressing it as a community? Are we just going to also ignore it? Are we going to say, hey, this has to stop, or this is our expectation when we go to the club? Because I cannot believe that he went to the club with a gun and no one knew but him.
Yeah. That's why I stopped working in clubs, because of the clubs are just a lot of violence, a lot of roofing and all that. That's why I kind of stay away from big crowds and big clubs. Yeah. But all they did was take away their liquor license for 7 days. That is crazy.
I started to call them today.
Only 7 days.
I started to call TABC, which is the Texas Alcohol and Beverage Commission, to find out, okay, what I think they're part of because the guy who did the shooting, he was shot and killed on site. He was. So I think that TABC's investigation is to see if they were providing alcohol to someone who was already clearly intoxicated, because then that adds to their damages and their negligence under like special kind of what's it called, the damn shops law, that if you're an establishment that provides liquor and you serve someone who's clearly out, over the influence, then, and that's typically we see in like drunk driving incidents. Yeah. But it can definitely also come up in a situation like this, because if you're overly serving someone cause someone else to receive damage, you are responsible for the damages that that person, did.
I feel like we should go back to Friday a little bit. You remember at the end where Craig's dad was like, "No, fight him, son. Like anybody can have a gun, but it's like a cowardly thing to do. If you have a problem with somebody, fight a fight where everybody can live to see another day. You may be the winner of that fight, you may be the loser, but it doesn't mean that the person you are angry at should die. I know my cousin died of gang violence, or not even gang violence, somebody who got mad about a basketball game.
And that's the thing, it'd be the stupidest,
the
I've lost a lot of friends.
Yeah. Over a lost basketball game. And so I think almost just hearing you having stories and you have stories, and it's sad that the trauma that goes on that just is unspoken. Like we don't ever address it. We don't really talk about it. And probably I could say maybe in the black community everybody knows somebody who's died, but in the white community they'd probably be like, no, the first person I met was when I was 30 and my cousin died.
Yeah.
And so that's traumatizing.
Yeah.
That's traumatizing, and it's part of our experience as Black Americans, as we don't get to talk about, we don't address, and then it just sits and festers, and then people wonder why what happens.
And then the thing that concerns me is I think Houston is an anomaly because we do have a lot of black establishments that we can go to, but in other cities they don't have that many. And so when attacks like this happen, it only shrinks the spaces that we can go to for recreation. And
they call it, your shoes you can't wear jeans that have a hole in them. Washington, we had this.
Exactly.
Yes, and then they will just pick. I have gone into a club and dressed a certain way, and then have friends who were behind me who could not come in. And then you have to decide if everybody's leaving or what.
Yeah. And then like Clay, for example, I look at Clay as a space that we were visiting because it's not typically a black spot.
It goes back and forth. But they're like a promoter spot, right? So they go to the highest bidder, but certainly they have 2 weekends ago it was like Steve Aoki there. So they have big name techno, EDM DJs.
You know what's interesting, and tell me if y'all agree, I feel like Clay opens up to us only on holidays. No?
No. It's kind of like an every other weekend kind of thing to me.
Okay.
If you look at the schedule, because they try to feature people.
Okay.
Yeah, so they go with whoever's featured there.
Okay. I'll take that back.
But I do think that there's an increase of violence too because of the internet. People don't like shame. Nobody wants to be on Twitter and going viral for getting beat up because you'll never live that down. So one thing I have noticed is you get into a fight and you get beat up and your video is viral forever. Whenever you say anything on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, they're going to always, somebody save that video and they're going to always bring it up. So there's that one aspect of the internet and social media. And it plays a part in people's suicides, bullying, things like that.
How they react in situations that could be resolved
That were
otherwise.
small.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great way to think about and a great thing to focus on mental health, how we address shame, how we address facing the crowds that everybody's looking, because we've had a big time tennis star say, I'm out of here, y'all aren't treating me right, or this triggers some anxiety on my behalf and I'm not having it. So how do you guys feel about it? It was one way Candace Owens was trashing her, and then she was like, oh, it's mental health, you're all good, I support you.
I have many thoughts about this. First, I commend Naomi Osaka. I feel like she is very courageous as a young woman, as a young athlete. I know that she says that she's an introvert and she battles with depression and anxiety, but she has been courageous, not just on this front, but when it comes to Black Lives Matter and injustices towards Black people, she has definitely had her voice heard. And she has told them ahead of time, out of respect, to say, hey, it's not that I don't want to speak to them at all. Can I speak to them after the tournament is over? And then for them to hit her with this fine, which could have been up to $20,000.
It was 15.
No, it was 15. It could have been up to 20 based on whatever their statute is. They then they come at her with this attack, and then the media, some media was in support of it, but I've also seen some media reports that say she was boycotting. She was not. It's the difference between a boycott and me saying that I'm going to do it, but can I do it in a way that works best for me and my mental health, me and my performance? Because people look at athletes as nobody really cares about you. We just care about you doing the performance and the way we want you to do it.
Yeah.
That is not fair. That is not right. And I'm proud of her. And I'm proud of her calling them on their bluff and saying, okay, you can find me. But this is my stand and I'm going to stand in it.
Yeah.
And then now y'all want to come back. The same people who wrote the statement saying they were finding you now came back and said, oh, no, we want you back healthy and well. We understand. We want to work with you on mental health now. Oh, yeah, now you do, huh?
Well, I mean, sometimes and we're taught to kind of keep our cards close. You don't want to tell people the real reason that you don't want to come, or you're feeling anxious.
Because you never know how they're going to use it against you. I have borderline personality disorder, so most people don't know I have BPD.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I don't even say anything. I just kind of like, whatever, because you just never know how somebody's going to take it, because you can't really have real emotions, because people are like, oh, it's because you got BPD. I'm like, well, I have emotions as well. It's not because of
human,
this. I'm regular too. Everything is not circled around your anxiety or your depression, but it does happen, and you just never know how somebody's going to respond.
And you try to use it, especially when you're trying to focus as an athlete to be at your highest and best level. So you don't want these things in your ear. If somebody gets in your hand saying you can't do it, you can't do it, at the moment you should be diving or trying to take the risk, trying to take the shot. That starts repeating in your head.
But people use them as excuses. Like, if you say I have anxiety or depression, like Naomi saying, they'll see it as an excuse. Well, you are worth $15 million, so you're not allowed to be sad, mad, or, cry. But I mean, she's achieved something that obviously nobody but Serena has achieved.
And I don't know any other sport, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know other sports that have a press conference right before the competition. As a prior collegiate athlete, that time before you compete is very sacred.
Nerve-wracking. Yeah.
So you are getting yourself mentally, because 90% of the game is in your head and how you perform. So that's a very sacred time. So I don't know many other sports, if there are any other ones, that require you to have a press conference with people who can attack you and throw you completely off game before you actually go and perform.
You know what's even funnier than that, though? How did they treat Naomi when she was competing against Serena? They put her on this pedestal like she was so frail and this, that, and the other, and they made Serena look like this big, angry woman, like this animalistic woman. Now the tables is turned, and now it's her turn. It's always a black woman's turn to be laughed at.
Well, and I really like
Serena Williams,
Venus's response.
Yes,
she was like, I mean, sometimes you kind of have to remind people, and she did a great job reminding. I'm sure she was impacted by Naomi's experience and what she shared, but she was like, I just can look at it. It's kind of like reminds me of when you say, I'm scared of public speaking, so I imagine everybody in their drawers or in an embarrassing situation. She was like, y'all not me though. Y'all trying to judge me.
And I know for a fact that none of you will ever hold a candle or a light to what I can do. So at the end of the day, your commentary means nothing.
Because you're not as talented as her. None of them are.
I was like, I would be like, no questions.
Nothing else. Nothing else.
No.
I saw a tweet too when they were talking about her being worth $15 million and she shouldn't be allowed to be sad. But how much?
Wait, what?
She wasn't allowed to be sad because of how much she's worth.
Like,
But how much was Robin Williams worth when he died? $50 million.
yeah.
How many?
Or Anthony
Okay,
Bourdain.
hold on.
or-
Anthony Bourdain. How much was he worth?
But
Before
what? You have earned that. It's not like she was given $15 million.
Exactly.
She earned that money.
But they see that once you have this money behind you, all of a sudden you're not human.
And that's what pisses me off, because y'all have these people at these basketball games throwing popcorn, throwing bottles, as if these are not real people. Because if you did that out on the streets, I guarantee you would not have that same energy. But because you see them on the court, you feel like you can treat them any kind of way.
Or you feel like you own them. You
Own
have
them,
some
yes.
ownership share. I bought these tickets, so I pay your salary. So I get to dictate how you act, how you respond, and you're here to entertain me. It's become a departure from athleticism, but because of the amount they make, they think it's entertainment. So it's your role to entertain me. I like tennis. I bought these tickets because you're supposed to be in the finals, and here I am, I lost money, or I lost value because you are crying about something, or wah. And those usually are the people, generally in life, the people pointing the fingers are people who suffer the problems. The same way you could spot in the closet man because they hate gay so much. Those are the people who think that, who have their own mental struggles, but say, oh, because I suppress it, everybody should.
Well, they gotta
You
take
don't
it out
have
on
a
somebody
right
else because they got hurt as a kid.
Yeah.
I gotta take it out on you. So.
Yeah,
Absolutely
I
not.
feel like this. I appreciate her taking her stand.
Yeah.
I hope that the tennis association really does take what she's saying to heart, and that they sincerely want to really try to do what's best first for the players, and then media and fans can fall after they are taken care of. So I really hope that they're not just saying it as a ploy to sweep this under the rug,
But I'm
to
proud
really
of her.
address
She's
that.
young,
Yes.
and to come out and say that, because she could have just taken the L, and probably was her preference just to be like, okay, that's what y'all think, whatever. Because I could afford $15,000 fine, and I'm gonna take my L. But she said, no, let me clarify, and that takes a lot. And she has done so many great things. Not only support some tragedies that we've had in the Black community, but starting tennis camps in all parts, and she has a new one coming up in LA. And so really trying to bring the sport of tennis to underserved communities. So I commend her, and certainly happy that it shines a light on mental illness, because we all face our own struggles in that area.
And imagine what it's like to face that on that type of level. Like,
Since she was a kid, she
in
was a
front of the
baby.
entire world, I can't even imagine. Like,
Everybody
I
own
go
your
through-
business. Like, you can't even go to the grocery store. You can't do nothing without somebody critiquing you. Could you imagine just putting on your hoodie, trying to go to CVS and get some tampons or something?
Well, and you know what? And she faces it, honestly, she has it worse, because not only does she face it in America,
Japan.
she faces it in Japan, and we know that that is a very conservative country.
Yes.
Their preference is that you were seen and not heard, and not just women. That is consistently, kind of their stance. So having to take that stance, she has opted to only be a Japanese citizen. And so she faces that not just here, but everywhere, but especially in a country that, like for the Olympics, she will represent Japan in the Olympics. She is not an American citizen anymore. She chose to be a Japanese citizen.
Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed our lovely and lively conversation today. with the
Clearly,
amazing
I
Bev.
enjoyed
'Cause I
mine.
couldn't say lively. I'm saying lovely and lively.
I put a jalapeno. My mouth's a little hot.
Lovely, lively. None of them are delicious drinks pale in comparison to our beautiful bartender today.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us in the conversation, making our libations, which really kicked off this conversation. So you're responsible for it all, and we appreciate you. Make sure to check her out again on IG. Where?
O'Bevin, OHBEVIN.
And you can check us out. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, share here on YouTube, as well as Facebook and Instagram as well.
And don't forget to try out some highway vodka.
Yes, the only hemp-made vodka, and it's Black owned. Okay. Whoop, whoop. You winning all across the board. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Where you from?
I'm so sorry. Those people,
She said that she had let them know. Yeah, I'm gonna close that door.